The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints versus the SEC being fined $5 million for something they apparently did wrong. But is the SEC actually overreaching? And did the church really do something that was illegal worth a $5 million fine? That should be investigated a lot deeper. Let's take a look at that in DeFi IoT. I just want to do a brief video on this. I know this really has nothing to do with crypto, but it does have everything to do with the overreach of the Securities and Exchange Commission of the United States of America, the SEC. And just so you know, the average fine that just launched on everybody lately and over the last few years has been around $4 to $5 million. That's just kind of the typical, hey, we're going to come after you unless you give us $5 million. Now I want to just explain something just briefly. And you can go through, put the link down below. You can see the SEC filing. The church comes out and says, oh, hey, we authorized this, and if we did wrong, then okay, we want to be in conformity with the law, but we are advised to do this, and so we approve that, okay, by our legal advisors. Now let me just back up on something. I've been listening to videos too, saying that because they didn't file this 13F, this form 13F on their LLCs that apparently are supposed to declare where their assets are. Right? Here's the bottom line. Look. I don't believe the church did anything that was illegal. And what bothers me is the church is not fighting to defend that. That's what bothers me, because the LDS Church is a church that has always stood up for freedom and rights. And what bothers me about that is why they're just kind of like backing off just for publicity purposes to say, whoops, I'm sorry. It's the whole idea of back into not being canceled out. Now, I'm not trying to bag on the LDS Church. Who I want to bag on is the SEC. First of all, let's go in and see what the SEC, the question really is, does the SEC really have jurisdiction over a publicly traded, nonprofit organization? Well, there's some gray area there. And so you can go yes or no. But really, if we look at the fundamental of the SEC, at the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, we're going to talk about the three basic fundamentals, what they were charged with back after the Great Depression, right, when they were formed. The SEC works together to make a positive impact on America's economy, our capital markets, and our people's lives. For more than 85 years, since the founding of the height of the Great Depression, we've stayed true to the mission, protecting investors, maintaining fair and orderly and efficient markets, and facilitating capital formation. You see, that's their purpose. Has nothing to do with auditing non-profit organizations that are non-public. And so one could even argue the fact of what's the SEC even doing investigating, launching an investigation on the LDS Church in the first place. Here's what they did. There's a lot of people that want to sue the LDS Church because they think that they have all this money. They have this angel Moroni at the top of the temples and then gold-plated, et cetera, right? They think all this church has been known for this wealth. And the church has built a wealth of like $32 billion, something of that nature. Great. But a lot of that comes from a lot of their industry they have and for their tithing, the people that pay their tithing. There's like 17 million members or so at this point right now. And these are dedicated, tithe-paying Latter-day Saints. Good for them. The church then, some people are saying, well, the church was trying to hide assets from the members. Look, for one, I don't believe the church would do anything like that. Now, I'm not saying that churches are beyond corruption, but I don't think that the LDS Church leaders would do that because of what they stand for. But what I don't like is the fact is that, here's what they're doing. They're protecting their assets. I was a CEO for 12 years. I dealt with asset protection. I've been a business owner for most of my adult life. And I've gained my wealth. And I've lost it. And I know how I've lost it. And I've had to rebuild again. Now, one thing I learned when I had to hire a lot of attorneys and deal with a lot of attorneys, spend a lot of time in court. And the one thing I learned was protect your assets. And the LDS Church is no different. They are a target. They have stood up against prior woke and LGBTQ, etc. Now they're kind of backing off a little bit. There's a major amount of lawsuits there. And there's reasons for that. I can understand that. I may not like that. I think it causes confusion within their church members when you talk to them. Some will say, no, hey, we're against this stuff. This is not right. And so I'm going to say, well, we got to love everybody. And there's truth to both sides there, and I'm not going to get into that today. But what I want to get into, what I want to talk about just briefly in summary here, is that I don't believe the LDS Church committed anything wrong. And what bothers me, though, is the LDS Church is not standing their ground. That's the current administration. Right now, they're kind of more pacifist. I think prior administrations would have stood their ground, under Ezra Taft Benson, for example, and others. Even Hinckley and others would have probably stood their ground. Remember, they're a non-profit organization and they're a church, right? So they have a president and a prophet that leads. That prophet is also the president of the organized, the legalized corporation or non-profit corporation, and then the prophet from the spiritual aspect. So does the SEC, first of all, have jurisdiction? Look how they're going after all the crypto. They're going after, look, the government made too much money, and that's why our inflation is not going to go down. Just recently, a report came out saying inflation is going to continue to rise. And the things that came out, the reports that came out this last week show us that inflation is not going anywhere for a long time, and it's going to continue to rise. The government needs money. They gave it away. We're giving billions of dollars to Ukraine. For what purpose? These are people who have no idea what freedom really is, and they're not going to restore freedom or democracy. And it's not really democracy we're trying to restore anyway. It's a republic that's a constitutional democracy. They don't have that in Russia. They don't have that in Ukraine. I'm not going to go off on that. That's something different. But we're sending billions of dollars there. A recent report stated that 50% of Americans support this. Where's that going to come from? That's causing our inflation as well. So we're going to pay for that in our taxes, and we're going to pay for that in inflation. That's not our war. The SEC is our war, and we need to be focused more at home on stopping and reviewing what our governments are doing. Did the LDS Church commit any wrongdoing here? As far as my experience, and I have experience, I was chief executive officer of an $80 million company for 12 years, and I have some experience there. The LDS Church did nothing more than divide their assets out. They reported them, but they want them all reported. He wants them all reported in one. Why is that? Because it's an easier target. And when you get a lawsuit now, you can go after it. And you can go after all those assets, and you can actually get charging orders that go against and lean against those assets and cause you to pay any damages of any feelings that might have hurt when they say, hey, we support marriage between a man and a woman. You see? See where I'm coming from? So members of the church are out there saying, some of you members of the church, and numbers saying they're hiding the assets from the members. I don't believe that's true at all. So you need to really be at home and be checking where the error is, and that's in the government overreaching, and they continue to overreach because they gave too much money away, and they're making people lazy doing this. DeFi IoT, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed and you don't have a subscription, please subscribe now. It's free. Give us a thumbs up. Get the truth out there. We need to help people understand where the true criminals are. It wasn't the LDS Church in this case. It's the SEC that continues to abuse their authority. You can question, do they really actually have jurisdiction over a non-public, private, non-profit organization? Not what they were built for and founded for. They do not. We got to be careful of that because new laws are changing that are unconstitutional. They're allowing them to reach in our pockets. And they're going to do that with the central bank digital currency coming after you and I, too, if we don't start taking a stance against that. We do it right. We got to know the truth first. Links down below. See you in the next video.